so long as it's not pineapple on a pizza.
Well,
so long as it's not pineapple and olives on a pizza.
Welcome to Love in Brief, a brief, sometimes, podcast about issues of love in the ABDL community. So love for self, love for community, love for friends and partners, and let's say having an open mind. That's going to be a good one for today's topic.
Ooh, that's one of my favorite types of minds, the open kind.
Ooh, yes, ooh. Better than closed ones. Yes.
And Teddy, this is one that you've been working on for a while. Let's talk about this topic and what are you excited about?
Yeah, so I've been trying to produce this one since I think November of last year. It is now currently February, and it might be March when this comes out. But I've been seeing a lot of things in the community for years now of, somebody who is, say, only a DL or mainly an AB, and maybe they go through this evolution or this change or this expansion of their horizons into other facets of ABDL. I also see it with areas, kind of in kinks that are adjacent to ABDL, like littles, for example, who are into DDLG, but then discover later on an openness to diapers and making that part of their little space. Maybe there's, these thoughts or these aspects of ABDL that are almost hard limits, things that are, to your perspective right now, off limits to you, things that you are not comfortable with. So when you're talking to a partner or thinking about your own interest in kink, maybe that's not something that you ever want to explore. But then as time goes on, things tend to shift that sometimes. And so I thought it'd be really cool to dive into, that topic today, specifically with ABDL, because, we're an ABDL podcast, and, talk about when that happens, why it happens, some situations where it happens, and, kind of go from there. So, yeah, what do you think?
I think this is fabulous. And there are so many vectors of kink and of ABDL that could change over time. And obviously, the goal is not to try and unseat your hard limits, but it kind of happens sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes something changes your mind or you just want to try something. I know that's been true with me. So I'm excited to hear from our guests.
Yes. We'd love to introduce our guests now, and big thank you to both of them for coming on here. Again, been working on this for a while now, so to get two guests lined up with the right schedules in place, I'm very happy about this. So to start, I would love to introduce our first guest. You may have heard his voice before, actually, from another ABDL podcast. I will let him introduce that. But welcome our first guest. This is Crinkly.
Good afternoon, I guess, for you guys.
Yes,
it is afternoon.
Different time zones, huh?
It must be very late where you are.
It is, but that's absolutely fine by me.
Let's see, it's plus 5 hours, so it's next Wednesday. I think I did the math right.
Yeah,
sounds about right.
And you normally go by Comfortably Crinkly, and folks may have heard you on this podcast, but they probably also have heard you on your other podcast. What is that one about?
Potentially, yeah. So I started a podcast with a co-host in the UK a little while ago now, called The Crinkle Club. We're 2 seasons down, so we're 20 episodes in. And to be honest, I absolutely love it. It's a fantastic medium, and it was your blessing, actually, that sort of inspired me to do it. So that podcast only exists because of this one.
Oh, I love that. And we only exist because of the Big Little podcast that came before us. So you can be the Big Little's grand podcast.
Podcast. I'm fairly sure I dedicate a few minutes on every episode to either you individually or this podcast. So I'm fanboying right now pretty hard.
Oh. I love your podcast, and the conversations that you get into, whether there's a guest or not, are just thoroughly intriguing. So I promise, friends, I won't spend this whole time geeking out over their podcast, but we will let you know at the end of this episode where to find it.
Yes, it is a great podcast. Definitely recommend checking it out. So, Crinkly, first question we always give our guests, tell us about your love.
God, I've heard that been asked about, 141 times? And it's the first time I get to answer it. So, Teddy, I think you've kind of mentioned it at the top, to be honest, or at least it gets mentioned at the top of this podcast every time. For me, it's the community. This community, whether it be in person or online, the experiences that I've been able to take from it, the opportunities that it's created for me, the travel that I've been able to do, and truly the friends that I've made along the way, without wishing to be corny, but I've discovered a kind of chosen family within this community, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
I feel the same way. chosen family is such a good way to talk about it.
Now I'd like to introduce our other guest. This is going to be Baby Pants from Instagram. And Baby Pants, tell us about your love.
Hi. So my love at the moment is I'm shortly going to become Mrs. Baby Pants. So my love is for my fiance and this whole wedding planning experience.
Ooh,
and
how exciting!
Thank you.
Congrats, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then just having like my friends who I haven't spoken with in a while, like help me with this whole process. So, like my love for kind of like my chosen family as well, and just this soon becoming Mrs. Baby Pants.
Congratulations over that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
To you and Mr. Baby Pants. How is the planning coming along? Do you feel like you're getting close?
Yeah, it's October, so like we have the venue, we have the dress, we just need food.
Yep. Somebody's got to bring a giraffe to pet and a hot air balloon, and it's a lot. It's a lot.
Ooh, I want your budget. Can I get that?
I don't know, man.
That
I've done
sounds
the
like a
wedding
fun
thing
wedding.
twice. I'm out of wedding budget. I'll just come hang at yours. Thank you very much.
Open invite, yes.
Hope it's a nice fall wedding somewhere if it's October.
Oh yeah, that's lovely.
Ooh, it's gonna be warm.
Yeah. Well, thank you both again so much for coming on. Very excited to dive into this. And so I know a little bit about both of your stories, but I would love for our listeners to kind of hear it from the top. So, Crinkly, maybe you want to start with your journey. So you've told me a little bit about your journey from being a DL to then having other roles. So I guess when you first joined the community, when you first ventured out there, how did you first identify, and maybe walk us through the evolution that you've gone on to where you are today?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's quite the evolution, to be fair. I guess just to set the scene, going back to CapCon 2024, so it was my first Cap. I sat in on one of the workshops by Quiz from yabdl.org, and it was the origins of ABDL, which I found kind of fascinating because it was as close to an answer of why am I into this that I could have ever wished for. And it talks about the 5 stages of kink development and kind of between very, very early years through to young adulthood. And I was kind of looking back on my own journey recently and realizing it doesn't end there. Like you have the early encounters, you have self-exploration and things like that. But when I kind of first dabbled in this community, it was very much online. Not to age myself, but it was wet set forums and GeoCity sites and BPF.
I remember those.
Like
I remember those.
It was just a very, very kind of different place, and I was convinced, for want of a better phrase, that I was a 100% DL. I use the term factory installed. I may have heard that on this podcast once or twice. From my earliest memories, I was kind of into nappies or diapers, I guess, for you guys. I often describe it as being an awkwardness in my younger years. It was like walking down that aisle in a supermarket or seeing those adverts on TV or somebody even saying the word kind of created a sort of, blood going cold, cringe kind of feeling. So I always knew I was kind of different in that regard. But yeah, it was entirely on the DL side of things. I had no tendencies to be little. The first person I ever physically met from this community would sort of joke to me and say, you'll become a little eventually. It's just going to happen. And I remember laughing and saying, dude, it's never going to happen. You will never see me at an event, sat in a playpen, stacking blocks. And then lo and behold, a few years later, I was at an event. I was sat in a playpen and I was stacking blocks, and I just kind of thought back to that moment and thought, turns out he was right. But,
how about that?
But yeah, it's
great.
It kind of continues to evolve from there, and little bits of paraphernalia here and there, and my first ever onesie was plain white. Obviously, all the dips back then were Tenor or Abina or Molicare. There was nothing that we've got now, and just. I think the first transition that I went through from kind of 100% DL to accepting that I had little tendencies probably came around 2020, 2021. So pre-COVID, I'd never been to any events, and post-COVID, I've been to bunch, including Capcom and SideQuest. And I think it was generally just life got really stressful, just professionally and personally. Just things with the weight of the world seemed to be on my shoulders, and there would suddenly became something really, really appealing about relinquishing all of that responsibility onto somebody else that could take it in their hands and be careful with it. And yeah, so it just kind of started from there, really.
It sounds like you were really kind of in this label, in this DL, like I am a DL, and then with circumstances in life, and I know we all went through the pandemic when it was, you know, stressful, uncertain, it kind of pushed you into a new area. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it started with little things. It was plain white onesie, got my first dummy or pacifier, and sort of tinkered with that a little bit. But it was always more of a aesthetic than a headspace. The actual headspace side of things was much, much, much more recent. But yeah, all of a sudden it was like, okay, maybe there's more to this than just padding up and sticking your jeans back on and watching Netflix. And it was just a little bit of kind of self-discovery and exploration, and just kind of allowing myself to lean into it a little bit more and just be a bit more vulnerable and just sort of take that eternal search for happiness, I guess.
I think it's so interesting, and I've experienced similar things, but it's so interesting that at one time, the thought of, it's not like you were denying yourself something you wanted. At one time, it was something it sounds like you were really sure you just didn't want. It wasn't appealing. Is that right?
100%, yeah. And throughout this episode, I'm sure we'll go into the kind of second facet of that evolution, but it makes me so excited for the future, because it's like my brain is holding out on me, and it's like, you're never going to believe what you're into next. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's exciting. Yeah, absolutely. And to go from going, I've got no little tendencies at all. I don't want to be an adult baby. I just enjoy padding up. They relax me. It's a sexual thing. It can be a non-sexual thing, but it's just dips. That's all it is. That's changed quite tremendously.
Right. And to think, you know, what else is out there that is still yet to be discovered. That is exciting. That's a great place to be. It's a good mentality.
I love that you're calling that out, that if this could happen, if I could like this, who knows what my lovely brain and body are going to do for me next, and heart. Like, I used to hate olives, and now I order them on pizza all the time. And there was a time when I would have told you the rest of my life I will always hate olives. I don't know what changed, but I love that it's true. So what's true next? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of continue on that food pun there, or the food analogy, right? As Mako is very commonly used in the past.
That's right.
You know, I was a very, very picky eater for most of my life, as many of my close friends would know. You know, I would only eat basic American foods. I would always say, if a 5-year-old would eat it, I'm probably safe. If a 6-year-old would eat it, we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
But now, in the last year and a half or so, I've gone on this evolution, and I've become this total foodie. I will eat anything now. I remember how I would never eat a salad before. I wouldn't eat lettuce because in my brain, it's like, that's a tree. Why would I eat a tree? But now I have a salad almost every day for lunch. And so, you know, in similar ways as Kink, and in this mindset, this growth mindset, this openness mindset, I would love to dive into this more throughout this episode. But I think before we go any further, I would love to turn it to our other guest, Baby Pants. Maybe tell us about your story. So when you first came into the kink world, what were your interests? And over time, you know, tell us about your evolution and where you are now.
Yeah, so when I first got into like kink, I hopped onto Tumblr, a whole new world for me, and I started seeing girls just acting little, and I was like, I feel like that's my personality. And I spoke to my then boyfriend, and I was like, hey, I really like this thing called DDLG, and he was like, okay, call me daddy. And yeah. It didn't end up working out. Years go by, and I have some littleness with me still, but it's something I can't really do by myself. And then I met my now fiance, and I told him straight up, like, hey, this is something I've been missing for the past couple of years. I really like if you would join me in this. easy peasy, jumped right into it.
Oh,
I had
nice.
I had a couple passies, had a onesie, but one of the things I remember the first day I brought it up to him, he was like, "Hey, no diapers," and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I don't want that either. A hard no for us. Cool." Because I remember on Tumblr just swiping past photos and not reblogging them. I remember following Daddy, I Want This, and Lo would post a lot of photos of her padded up and non-padded, and I would mostly only reblog the non-padded. And the Tumblr hiatus happened. A couple of years later, about 6 years actually, I think. I don't get on Tumblr, hop back on, and randomly I'm reblogging girls in diapers. um, just like the olives on the pizza. I don't know why. I just did.
That's great.
And I started re-listening to Lo's podcast. The first time I listened to Dream a Little, I skipped so many episodes. Kind of like, this isn't related to me. I don't care about that. And then I re-listened to it again. I'm like, I want more. I want more knowledge. I want more of people's stories. And then I actually found Love and Brief, and I started seeing other people just like with similar tags. I'm like, this is something I'm actually wanting to get into. How do I bring this up though to a man who was hard no on this? Crazy enough, we're at a music festival, the music festival where he asked me to become Mrs. Baby Pants. And I go to the bathroom, I come out, and he's like, "Hey, I want to see you in a diaper." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "There was just a girl dressed as Baby Peach in a diaper, and all I could think of was wanting to see you."
Whoa.
Right?
Wow.
Biggest smile
what was
across
that
my
like?
face.
Okay, I was gonna say it was smile, frowned, run away.
Smile, he grabbed me, and then we just continued walking and didn't get brought up again. And the next month, I had made my first order of the Pink Rebels. R.I.P. I missed them. And I surprised him when he came home for his birthday. And here we are almost every day I wear. He sometimes gets upset if I'm not wearing when he gets home.
What?
Yeah, he's like, where's my padded butt? Go get it." And yeah, that was 2024. So I haven't really been in super long in the community, but hearing on Lo's podcast that to make and actually your guys' podcast too, about creating a like a Kink account and getting into that. And so I made an account, I started following people, I started posting some photos, and I like this little deep dive I've done, and it's just something that I thought I would never ever do. Just I have a closet full now.
Oh my gosh.
One of us.
I love it. One of us. And you did it. I mean, you really have dove in deep. I do wonder, Teddy, how many, we got to start a chalkboard with how many people owe their sexual renaissance to the Dream a Little podcast.
I know.
But like on this podcast, they tell us all the time. Then I found Lo's podcast. So way to go, Lo. We need to have her on this one. I know we were on that one a long time ago, but I love that you dove in with both feet, both arms, and everything in between and said, yeah, I want to try this thing that I swore off, that I was sure I was never going to do.
That's such an inspiring story. I mean, to go from a place where it's expressly a hard limit, it sounds like, between for you and for your now fiance, to now a place where you both really enjoy that. I guess I would love to dive into the mindset there. I mean, other than a festival bathroom being so traumatic that it forces you into diapers, what was your mindset like when he brought that up and when, you started to go down to this path too? Like, what was it you think that created that openness from a place before where maybe you were a little bit more rigid?
I don't know, honestly. I remember just like being super anxious when I was like placing the order and like feeling super anxious when it came in. But the moment I put it on, I was like, I get it. I understand. I love this. And the smile on his face too. Like I get joy from his joy, and I feel like that's vice versa. And so just knowing that something made me comfortable, he was like, okay, she's great, she's cool, I don't gotta worry. Yeah, and like there's times where like he has set up, like I have a little corner full of squishes and he'll set that up for me and he'll leave and he's like, "All right, you have your place, you be you." And I'm actually able to get into that little headspace where before
Oh,
I couldn't do it by myself.
That is by itself a superpower that that you now have access to a space that you never accessed before, and it just takes a little bit of a nudge. And I do wonder, now that you can kind of do that alone, whether he's actively engaging, have you ever tried to do it when he's not even a part of it at all?
I have. So whenever I travel, I always, I don't like watching the hotel TVs. They're always the boring channel. So like I'll take my laptop, I'll set up Netflix. I'm able to put on like a little cartoon or something and just have my mind shut down. Because typically if I'm traveling, it's for work, and I don't want to be thinking about work at the end of the day. So I'm able to just shut it out, turn on a little cartoon, and pat it up, have a passy, and I'm just me.
Yeah. Sometimes, we joke around a lot in this podcast and in this kink that there's so much accoutrement, right? It's mostly a spending habit, and then a kink. But there is something about having a cheat button that if I hold this stuffy or I put in this passy / dummy, crinkly, or I put on a nappy / diaper, that like is like a fast forward button to a headspace, which is like so powerful, man. What a cool thing to have.
yeah, for sure. And it sounds like you've been able to, unlock that little headspace with with another element, another deeper element, with now incorporating diapers. And it's something that you both enjoy, even though you started again at a place where no, there's no way ever, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because now like when I wear a diaper, like I feel even smaller than just like my normal little self like I had in the past. Like it's like actual um I can let control go. I suffer
Yeah.
from anxiety, so control is something I always need to have, but once I'm babied up, I don't have any control and I'm okay with that.
Oh, that's sweet. When you were first getting into little space and like diapers were that just immediate no, um, what do you think that was? Do you think it was like a perception of diapers that you had from society, from an experience in your life? Like what led to that sort of hard limit in the first place?
Yeah, I think it definitely had to do with society. Um, I also think it was me being like, that's gross. Why do I want to sit in that? And that was before I learned that some people don't always use them. They'll just wear them. Um, and through kink, actually, I kind of found out I do like some fluids. And
You and
so
Lola are in good company. She's a big fluid fan, Lola.
and so it's like, you know what? Maybe it's not as gross. If I don't mind other things, let me try this out. And then my fiance is always saying, you got to try something once. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I just
That's
always
good.
thought it was, I guess, the idea of sitting in your own fluid was gross. But then throughout, God, 2020, wow, 2026, so over 10 years now, I've been able to experience different kinks now in the kink community, and I guess that's kind of desensitized me. I don't know if that's the right word, but like it's let me become more open to
Hmm.
try new
Yeah.
things.
Mm-hmm. Again, superpower. I'm going to say it like the fact that it has gone global for you, that it's globalized to other things, that this is now a skill, not just a happenstance or not just a one-time occurrence. Super cool. And crinkly, like I would love to pose the same question to you. Do you have any sense of what the beliefs are or the social constructs or ideas are that made you think, hey, I'm really not going to like this? And what about that may have changed?
That's a great question. I'm still marveling at Baby Pants' answer. What a truly fantastic story.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Far be it for me to give anybody advice, but I'd say try anything twice because you're going to suck at it the first time.
That's true.
But yeah, do you know what? It's something I've spoken about on the Crinkle Club before, actually. I think sort of I just turned 40, a bearded, heavily tattooed, heterosexual male. The idea of being little almost felt more than taboo, completely not allowed. And I think there's obviously a societal and a social stigma that, men just be these stoic, emotionless, sort of wake up every day and read Marcus Aurelius quotes in the mirror kind of people.
So you don't do that? Every morning I start with nothing but
yeah.
Vulgate Latin.
I just watch Gladiator now, like all 3 hours.
all 3 hours.
But no, so I think there is that kind of stigma that, I can't be little. I don't meet the aesthetic. I don't, I think a lot of people get hung up on this. I don't look how people online look or whatever. But no, it was, again, I think it was generally just kind of stress of life, getting to a point of saying, do you know what? I deserve to be happy. If there's something out there that's going to bring me joy and it's not going to hurt anybody else, then let's give it a go. And it's definitely revolutionized my place in this world. I started a company, I started a podcast, I traveled a lot more, I attended CAP, I met just a bunch of incredible people. And it's like, I allowed myself to do that, and it's one of the best things I ever did.
What an endorsement. It revolutionized my place in this world. And then all of those incredible changes. And it's amazing. Like, the power of belief is remarkable, because you chose to change a belief. You chose to swim upstream against a whole cultural set of mores and said,
right.
you know what, if it makes me happy, I'm going to try it anyway. And here you are. And I think that is a testament to a difficult change and what can come from that kind of openness.
It's so funny listening to Baby Pants' story, because I was chatting to Diaper Perv recently. I was sharing my story with her on an quite an incredible road trip across the US, actually. And she kind of laughed and said, I've met hundreds of people from this community. She's like, every guy that I've ever spoken to was into dips first and then became little. And every female she meets in the community was into being little first and then found dips. And that's exactly how this has worked out between the two of us. I appreciate there's always going to be an exception to the rule, but I think that's quite a common paradox.
Yeah.
Definitely has been in my experience. Yeah.
And it really speaks to those, right? These gender roles and gender norms and the influence that they have. And boy, Diaper Perv, another amazing content creator who knows just about everybody. So I would believe her when she says that she has seen just about all of it.
Yeah, I mean, as Crinkly was saying there, I mean, men oftentimes are raised to, be the stoic, the provider. And so maybe even if you are a factory installed DL, kind of letting your mind go to that little headspace, that AB headspace, it's even like another step. It's another step beyond, once you accept your DL side, which is hard enough, being able to discover and understand and be okay with being an AB is like a whole nother level. And I wonder on the flip side too, from a societal point, for women, I mean, I've had many friends. I have, an ex-wife, and she, my ex-wife, she enjoyed being coddled. She enjoyed, being taken care of. She liked watching Disney. And so when I was getting into this as a DL and, a caregiver, I was like, ooh, look, little tendencies. But really that wasn't what it was in that case. It's just societally, women are almost encouraged to be that innocent person that to be taken care of in a lot of ways. Like, that's okay. Versus for men, it's almost the opposite. And so maybe me dabbling with little space and DDLG with my ex-wife was a little bit easier because there were aspects of it away from the diapers, away from the control that she could get behind, but then for her to make that leap to diapers would have been a much bigger lift. That was not what she was into. So I think society does inform a lot of, what we're talking about here in terms of how we all approach kink and then how we evolve as we go into it.
Yeah. I do wonder too about what that does to people on both sides of that spectrum that you're describing, because it feels like that would be not good for anybody. And
exactly.
What a confusing message to both of us, because I also know that we have cultural baggage and gender toxicity around, hey, women, you're supposed to take care of your man. but they mean like do a lot of work and do all the housework and like, and men, you're supposed to just, you know, do your hard work and then come home and get taken care of, but you're not allowed to feel things.
No,
and you're not allowed to be taken care of like a little vulnerable thing. You just have to eat dinner or whatever the fuck. I mean, it's what a confusing set of standards we have to disrupt in order to change.
Yes, exactly. And when you're so far into that, it's hard to break out of it and think of anything else. Again, when you are growing up and following the rules of society, you know, you're going to fall into that, you know, you go to college, you go get a job. Again, speaking on the male's perspective right now, because that's how I grew up. And then, yeah, you never learn how to feel. You never learn how to take care of yourself emotionally. You never learn emotional intelligence. Emotions are bad. That's almost the message that a lot of us get. And so, Crinkly, I'd love to hear how this all kind of has informed that evolution. Like, how much of this was going through your mind when you had first started to dabble with the AB side, and how did you overcome that hurdle?
I think it was something that I accepted in myself pretty quickly. I've never really had shame around this, not since kind of early teen years anyway. And then you've got all the usual hang-ups that, you know, you're never going to be able to tell anybody. Nobody else is ever going to possibly be into this or understand. You are one of one in the world that has got this thing. And then one day you log in and you go to Ask Jeeves or something and discover there's going to be so many people that don't get that reference. But,
yeah, what's an Ask Jeeves?
Yeah, or Yahoo. Yeah, and so I think from a self-acceptance perspective, it wasn't much of an issue for me. The biggest hurdle, I guess, is and it's much like Baby Pants mentioned, it's something that's really difficult to do by yourself. And you know, my long-term partner at the time was unbelievably accepting and accommodating, and when it came to the DL side of things was truly fantastic. But her leaning into any kind of caregiver or mummy space was a bit of a step too far. It always felt a bit like role play. So it wasn't something that I got to really experience or really delve into physically until much more recently, probably say last year, really, the beginning of 2025. So yeah, it's something that's definitely been brought to life with the participation of others, which I appreciate is a huge hurdle for so many people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hurdle to find who the others are, and it's a hurdle to let them participate.
Yeah, and it's, you know, again, it's that typical male masculine thing. It's, you know, being that vulnerable and having this secret, and even bringing somebody in from kind of the outside that's completely accepting and accommodating. They don't have the same emotional pull, turmoil, borderline trauma, you know, that growing up with this has, you know. And I liken it to I'm a big football, I won't say soccer, I just can't bring myself to, but you know, English football, right? And it's like if I took somebody that wasn't into football to the game and my team scored a winner in the very last minute, the response from me, my physical response, is going to be based on decades of supporting that team, being engrossed in it, being emotionally attached to it, and the relief and the euphoria and the excitement and all the drama that comes with it. For them, they're going to go, oh, that was cool, you scored. It's not the same, right? They're not going to understand why it means so much to me. Now, 10 years down the line, or, you know, some point in the future, when they've come to the games week in, week out, and they've lived those moments and they've built up that repository of emotion and experience, absolutely they're going to respond in the same way, but they're not going to at the beginning. And I think when you kind of look at it from a kink perspective, it's kind of the same. I've got my whole life of this and you know, moments in time and, you know, emotional elements to it. Whereas somebody that's coming into it from the outside, no matter how supportive, they're never going to quite grasp it, or they're not going to be able to grasp it quite in the same way in those early days.
That's such a really good analogy, the soccer game. And they also don't have all the shame. I mean, they don't have any of that emotional weight coming into it, right? So they also may not have the emotional weight of like, oh, this brings me joy. That may take a while. And actually, Miss Baby Pants, you were saying that same thing. You were saying, you know, that it has even evolved for you and your fiance over time. Do you have a sense of what has been driving this evolution in both you and in Mr. Baby Pants?
I don't know, man. um, I we've gone through a lot in the past couple of years. We moved across the country together. We lost everything to a flood, actually, and we had to restart.
Wow.
And so that might honestly be it. Us having to kind of like reset our whole lives. We restarted where we like we moved to a whole other part of the state. It might come to just restarting everything, because that's kind of when it really started to grow into where we are now. We lost everything in 2024, actually. So yeah, that makes sense. We restarted in 2024. There it is. You just brought some light to me.
Live on the podcast. That's great. And this segues well out of an episode that RY and Lola just did, Hitting Rock Bottom, because that almost sounds like you hit rock bottom there with your now fiance. And then again, on their episode, they talked about bouncing back from that. And I think a big lesson I took from that episode was having an open mind to new experiences and ideas, because, what's there to lose, essentially? You're reinventing yourself and who you are. And what better way to do that than to go off and have new experiences?
Yeah, definitely. It brought a lot of new things. New jobs, new cars, new furniture, new lifestyle, new diapers. I mean, I lost everything from like all of our toys, all of our passies, my passies. And so I know, why you mentioned in the past, you have your closet. We had a box, and water went way above that box. And so we restarted all of this. And I think, just being able to be open to trying new things, open to life isn't going to be what we thought it was. So we can't just be fit into this box. We gotta experiment. We gotta try new things. I got that man to go on a cruise who hates open water.
Oh wow, what was the trick? Was it like, hey, we've already been through the hardest thing, let's just do this?
There was a lot of promises made for nighttime activities.
I see.
Yeah.
Very well played. Well played.
Yeah.
I also love this focus on like when life necessarily changes, when life has to change, when you have to separate from your expectations for how things were going to go, you also, by that very nature, have to separate your expectations from how they should go, because they already didn't. And I can certainly identify with that, where like your life takes a nasty turn, or even just a really big surprise turn, and there's that word humility that shows up in the root of the word humiliate, right? Like sometimes you go through something really fucking awful and even humiliating, and at the same time you discover that a lot of your shoulds go away. And this is a great time to try something that you always assumed you weren't allowed. That was a word that Crinkley used, allowed, that you weren't allowed to do.
Yeah. And I always take inspiration from your story, RY, the year of yes, back in the day when you faced this and you went off there and, you went out there and just said yes to everything, right? That made you, that interested you, and you discovered kind of who you are from that, right?
Yeah, things that interested me, or even just that were tangentially offered to me that might interest me. And so it turns out some of them I still don't like, and some of them I love in ways that I never thought I would. Maybe that's where the olives came in. The year of yes. I don't know. Maybe somebody offered me an olive, and I'm like, yes.
What about pineapple on a pizza?
Every time. Every time. Oh, wow. I'll take it I don't even care what pizza it is. I'll take a pineapple on there. Every time.
Get in the sea.
Get in the sea. Just walk into the sea.
I'm too European for this. I'm sorry. You just don't.
Controversy or controversy, as you say.
It's a controversy of aluminium at this point.
It's an abomination, is what it is.
So Crinkly, I mean, I guess, are you identifying with any of this? Like these like kind of going back to basics in this tough part of your life and rebuilding and discovering a new person. Did that play into your story?
Oh, 100%. And what I just said there, I just simply don't believe in the, if they could, they would kind of mantra. But I 100% believe in if it's meant to be, it will. And sometimes you're in situations in life, and I mean, geez, you guys know from my own experience in recent years, sometimes you just have to get through things and appreciate that letting go is the best thing to do, which is maybe a bit deep, but sometimes you can just want something a lot and it's just not meant to be. Letting go actually created more opportunities that I wasn't anticipating.
Yeah.
In fact, we're talking about the kind of evolution. So obviously my evolution went from DL to little, and it evolved again. Like last year, I was in a situationship, and out of nowhere, I developed a daddy side. And again, this is one of those things where I never had that before. Now, I am a biological parent. I'm very paternal, but never in this sense. And I was kind of in a situationship with somebody that was quite sort of dismissive, avoidant by attachment style. And they cracked a window to their little side that they were kind of suppressing themselves. And it just activated something in me. They were very real and sort of vulnerable and honest in that space, and it obviously made me want to explore it more for sure. But I suddenly discovered, my God, I've got this part of me as well. And when we kind of walked away from that, my biggest concern was I'm never going to feel that again. That was only with her. I'd never had it before. I'm never going to have it again, and I'm going to mourn the loss of that because it felt like such a huge part of me. And I mean, one of the great things about having so many friends in the US is that you're so positive towards therapy. So, I got myself a fantastic therapist in the UK, and I was speaking to him about it all. And he was telling me they don't get to walk away with your emotions. They're yours, right? And all it's going to take is somebody else to come along and create a space that you feel safe to step into, and they'll all come back. And it's an easy thing to say, but sometimes you just have to see it to believe it. And sure enough, it happened. Somebody else came into my life that I was able to play with, a sort of play partner, where we switched. And more recently, somebody else has kind of entered the scene, and there's a new character in my world. And not ashamed to say, I'm crushing like a teenage girl, and we're both switchy, and we get to kind of play out both roles, and we've turned it into more than just a kink thing. It's become a bit of a kind of ongoing long distance lifestyle dynamic, and it's truly sensational. And going back not that long ago, I would have felt like I've completely lost this, whereas it just sometimes goes to show that the right person at the wrong time is the wrong person. And new doors will open, and it's just a case of allowing yourself to walk through them and give yourself the chance to be happy.
That's amazing. And this added layer, I think if you were a mic stand, we would call you polyarticulating, meaning you can bend in more than one direction at more than one spot. You now can be a DL, and you can be an AB, and you can be little, and you can be a big. And so now you have 4 things that you can do, at least, that you couldn't do before. Wow. That's like 4 parts of yourself, 4 temporary identities or sets of energies that you can put on that you didn't have before. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I still don't like olives. So,
well, that's the next thing. It's a
win-win. Yeah.
We're going to work on getting you into...
That's number 5.
Olives and pineapple. That'll be number 5 and 6.
5 and 6.
No, do you know, it's so funny because we talk about headspaces quite a lot. And, the first time I ever entered Little Space, it was just mind blowing. To have somebody that could facilitate that, to take my most vulnerable self and provide a space that I could kind of relinquish that responsibility was incredible. But to flip it around and go the other way is like just as good. And it's like, how did I go from purely DL to now exploring both sides of the age play coin?
Yeah.
Relatively seamlessly. Like I've fallen into it with just the most amount of love and adoration for it. But to feel so comfortable in both headspaces as well. And I mean, I still don't identify as a switch. I've got a particular sort of stubbornness to that. I think titles like that need to be earned in time. So yeah, I'll always consider myself a little. I have daddied 3 people now, and they've all had wonderful positive feedback, which is great. But I think it's so much more than just, you know, changing a nappy or, you know, sort of cuddling. It's knowing what that person needs and where their vulnerability comes from, and how you can kind of nurture that in the softest way, and seeing their response and their reactions to that, especially when it's maybe their first time really falling into a deep little space themselves, is just the most rewarding thing imaginable.
It sure is. Yeah,
it is.
I would love to do a whole episode on this, on caregiving, as just, you know, just giving somebody that safe space, because it's something so near and dear to my heart. So, oh my gosh, I would love to hear more about that story. But one thing I wanted to dive into with your answer there was thinking of obstacles as opportunities. That was one of the kind of a trend that we've been hearing throughout this whole episode. There's this quote that I carry around with me. When I hit rock bottom, I try to keep this in mind every single day. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. When I hit rock bottom, I didn't choose that. I don't know if any of us chose to be at rock bottom. I don't know if anyone does. But once you're there, if you can reframe it as an opportunity for growth, for discovery, for exploration, for anything, I think that is the best you can do to make the most out of that situation. So, and Baby Pants, in your story, you know, you discovered that maybe that disaster kind of led to your mindset shifting, hitting rock bottom. So I guess, like, what have you learned from this whole experience, from this evolution? What have you learned about yourself as a result of the shift that you've gone on and the new areas that you've uncovered?
Yeah, I guess, like, in my personal life, honestly, like, I started standing up for myself more. I took more power, because I always felt like, kind of going back earlier, you were talking about society roles and gender roles and how females are meant to kind of be smaller. I always kind of felt that way. But then after we moved and we kind of started over, I got a new job. I got promoted twice within a year. I started having that control, that power, and I feel like maybe that's going back into my kink life, where I don't feel scared or small, like, where I can't do something. It's more like, no, this is like already I said, like, my superpower. Like, this is something I feel confident about. I feel strong about. I think that answered it.
Yeah, sure.
That's amazing. I mean, I think a lot of times we think that receiving or being in little space, or even in a caretaker little dynamic where you're receiving that care, is a passive thing, but it's not. I mean, that the level of strength required to engage that vulnerably is a very active choice. And I've said this before on the podcast, but I'm happy to say it again. Like, when you're in a power exchange dynamic, you have to have power in order to exchange it. If you were already there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's not much of a power exchange. That's just a very powerful person and a very not powerful person getting together. When you do power exchange, you're giving away something you already have. So it doesn't shock me that the more powerful you felt, the more powerful you became, the more you were able to engage and give away that power consciously for periods of time, and the more powerful you felt on the other side.
Yeah, I always like to say that's like, at the end of the day, I'm the one with all the power, because I'm giving it to you to be able to take control.
Right.
And, like, I can end it any time, because for us it's more of a lifestyle more than just a time of the day. And so, yeah.
It's the same with Lola and I. Like, when she makes those daily choices, those daily submissive choices that we have agreed to, it's because every day we agree to it again, and she chooses to allow me to have those dominant moments. And then when we switch, I trade them back to her. And it is that very act of giving that is, in and of itself, the power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a message here is there's no coercion at all on either side, right? For
No.
you to have the ability to grow and to adapt new mindsets and to explore new kinks, I think if somebody, your partner or whoever else, tries to coerce you into it, I think that's going to do the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
It's up to the person, the individual person, to explore those things and open up their mindsets and
Yeah.
feel that power within themselves.
And it wouldn't be fun for me if Lola was just if she just was actually powerless somehow, and I just was like, oh, this is great, you're totally impotent, so I'm going to take advantage of that. That's not power exchange, and it's not fun. It's the fact that she is so smart and capable and intelligent and powerful and strong and makes shit happen in every corner of her life, that when she decides to hand that power to me, it becomes so special.
Well said.
It's how bi-directional it is that I love. If you're in the subspace, then you're still topping from the bottom. You're handing over complete control to somebody else for as long as you want to.
Yes.
And the moment you decide not to, you can just relinquish it and bring it back. And similarly, when you're in a position of power in a more dom space, to know that that person sees you as a safe person that they can trust and be vulnerable with is just one of the greatest feelings ever.
Yeah. It really is. And to see the other person light up in that moment, and to see, I mean, what a gift. So to me, when I experienced my first times, because I came into this world sort of in a DL and dom role, when I experienced my first times in that dominant space, it was so strengthening for me to be the recipient of that power exchange. And it was so like, I felt so powerful. Not because I was taking advantage of somebody, but because somebody would willingly give me that. I went into work like the next day feeling like a different person. And my job is one where I get to flex power all the time. When somebody intentionally pauses and hands me that through a power exchange dynamic, it is a wildly different experience and so rewarding. And when I trade it and I get to do the little thing, that makes me feel so much stronger and so much more powerful. Somehow it works in both directions. As you said, it's bi-directional, and that's incredible.
Yeah, I think if I was to take a guess at what my next evolution would be, I think it will be moving to a slightly more kind of dominant daddy role. I mean, my daddy side at the moment is very nurturing, soft, gentle, and caregiving. And a few people I've played with have been like, "Oh, I want you to be sterner." I'm just like, that's not me at the moment, but I'm kind of more than happy. Yeah, exactly that. I'm more than happy to learn, and it's great when you have people that are kind of willing to explore that with you and understand that you're going to make some mistakes along the way and so on and so forth. But so many people out there are they allude to themselves as, oh, when I'm in little space, I'm really, really needy. And it's like, well, you're only as needy as your unmet needs. So how can you communicate them to me in the best way to enable me to deliver on them? And I think being in that switchy space, knowing that you go, okay, I'm new to this daddying thing, what would I want if I was the little? And then to kind of lean into that, see the reaction, gauge it one way or the other. It's a kind of brilliant and fun and happy way of just exploring something completely new, and with typically quite a lot of success.
Yeah. One common thread I keep hearing is just that element of trust between partners that are either exchanging, their power in that sort of dynamic, or even if outside of a power exchange dynamic, just that level of trust that helps you feel safe to go and explore other areas. So, it isn't that you have to hit rock bottom, as we talked about, to go through these evolutions, this expanding your horizons. I think just if you feel safe enough, secure enough in your life or in your partnerships, and you build trust with those that you're in a dynamic with. I think I've heard that from Crinkly's story, with Baby Pants' story with her fiance. And, even in my own story too, once you feel safe enough to go to somebody and fully communicate your needs, it helps give it a voice too. Because sometimes I don't know what I want, but through talking with somebody that I trust, kind of bouncing off of them, I kind of get to that point. It's almost like therapy, not with a professional. I always want to encourage therapy. You know, that's a great thing. But if you have somebody that's close to you that you feel safe with, you can tell them anything. Like in my own dynamic, you know, I haven't talked about it much in the podcast, but you know, I'm in a daddy little dynamic with my little, and right away she was very encouraging of me wearing diapers because she knew that I was a DL. So I felt safe enough to go to her with those needs. I know there's others that feel daddies shouldn't wear diapers, you know, but I was clear up front, like that's just not me. And she was like, yep, I totally agree with that. So I felt safe going to her with that. But one other thing too is, you know, I have an interest in potentially like a nursing or breastfeeding sort of dynamic, right? And so because I know she's open and she's somebody I can trust, just because we have this daddy little dynamic doesn't mean that we can't explore that too, that I can't bring it up. You know, if it's a hard limit for her, great. You know, I'm going to respect that. I am never going to coerce her into doing something she's not comfortable with, but I at least feel safe enough to say, you know, I kind of have this lingering thought. What if we tried that? Right. So I think that's gone a long way to helping me feel more open and expanding my kink horizons. I don't know, RY, has that been a case for you at all?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And I love that example because you're already as crinkly as looking towards your next thing because you have that sense of safety and you have that sense of, in the past, it's actually worked out for you to step out a little bit. So now you're ready to step out again. And it is a reminder to me that that's how I got here too, was by taking little risks and trying new things. And I will say that it can be tempting for folks to think, as you said, that you have to hit rock bottom. You don't. You can just skip the rock bottom part and try new things, and I hope you do. But also it can be tempting for people to think they need a partner. But one thing that you and Crinkly have in common is that you, for the bulk of your exploration, were not doing it with a partner, right? Like you taught me, Teddy, how to just show up at a local event, at a BDSM event, and just learn and try things. That was something I had just never really done before. And it's okay to just go in solo and try things out. And if somebody says, hey, do you want to try getting flogged? No, but yes, I do, because I don't know what it feels like. Or do you want to be suspended? Sure, I guess.
I mean, if we're looking to give some advice, if we're going to give some advice here, I mean, look out for events like that. In the case of our local dungeon, it was called an exploratorium. It was basically a night where they allow you to sample different kinks. There was rough body, kind of like wrestling, I guess. There was electric play, wax play. Let's see, impact, sensory deprivation, just all sorts of things you could just sample. And, you know, I went in with an open mind. I watched others do it. I tried it out. And I learned a lot about myself in that. You know? And
I remember going to the now defunct Fet Fest and doing the same thing. Just trying shit. And I remember there was a food play area. And I remember being physically revulsed by this notion and saying, okay, I'm going to go to the food play area and it's going to be gross and I'm going to hate it, but I'm going to go. And I went, and guess what? I hated it. And then I left. Perfect. Right? Perfect. Now I know. And then there was the hypnotism one. And I was like, bullshit. I don't even think hypnotism is real. it's not going to work on me. And then I went and then I did it and I had the biggest fucking orgasm of my life. And it was spectacular. So who knows, right?
Right.
But you got to find those venues where you can take a safe step, whether you have a partner or not.
You just reminded me that I tried wax play last year. That's my fifth thing. It's not olives. It's wax play. That was really fun. And again, that was exactly like you just said, RY. It was one of those, do you want to try wax? It's like, yeah, sure. And then afterwards just going, wow, that was euphoric. It was likened to sort of a 6-hour tattoo session where there's a pain to it, but it becomes very enjoyable.
I did the same with needles. I remember thinking, ew, needles involves blood and skin, and I don't like needles, and they hurt. And afterwards, I was like, whoa, that was amazing.
Well, there's something for me to maybe try, because that's a hard limit on my list right now, but maybe at some point.
Maybe someday. I love what Crinkly said about I'm not that guy now, or I'm not that person today. And maybe someday you will, and maybe you won't. I'm curious, for you, Miss Baby Pants, like you've had this revolutionary change. You went from never a diaper to, I'll wear them all the time. and your fiance has had this revolutionary change, and now you can be little by yourself, which is amazing. What do you think might be next?
Ooh.
Is
See,
there
I've done
something?
wax play. Love
Okay.
it, by the way, especially when little drops on the diaper, like on the plastic bags.
Wax
Yes.
play? Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy.
Um, I don't know. I've been wanting to try like so many. Whenever I see a new kink, I'm like, ooh, let me try that. I want to try that. There's so many out there though. Um, I think rope shibari. I think it's beautiful. I actually, wow, my brain today. I actually just bought a lesson. So that makes sense. That's my
Oh,
next
nice.
place. Yeah. Oh
Oh,
my
that's
god,
great.
guys.
That's so cool. You're going to a shibari lesson?
Not going to a lesson, but like a digital lesson.
Oh, so cool.
That's great.
A lot of things are coming to light today. Before this podcast, I did go to the gym and have a workout, and then that kind of drained me. So
I tell you what, I am never more receptive than after a workout because I have nothing left to fight with. So good for you. Maybe that's why you're having these revelations. You know what I mean?
probably all these come to Moseses.
That's awesome.
Go grab some pizza, maybe with pineapples on it.
I wonder.
Maybe not that far.
Yeah, that's pushing it. She'd rather try what I was trying to think of. Oh, food play. Maybe she'd like to try food play, but
yeah.
no pineapples. Yeah.
No pineapples though.
I wonder if I can issue a challenge to all of us and to everybody listening, which is like, as Crinkly said, what is the "I'm not that person yet" thing? What is a belief that you hold today about who you are allowed to be and what you're allowed to enjoy that feels almost like a given? The same way that somebody who is a male and heavily tattooed, heterosexual, as Crinkly described himself, said, I'm not supposed to be little. I can't be little. It's not like, what have you ruled out, just out of hand? And what might you be wrong about? Just something to think about. There's no prize for being the kinkiest one, in case you're wondering. Like you don't win by acquiring more kinks. I just think it's amazing to get to try new experiences and uncover parts of yourself that you didn't know were there.
That's a beautiful ask.
It's funny you say that. The thing I'm probably learning most about myself at the moment and kind of struggling with is something Teddy alluded to a moment ago, which is communication. Now, I'm all for communication. I'm a man of many, many words, but I've realized how little I will speak up when something hurts me. Because it's like we don't do that. We just suppress it. We keep it to ourselves. We don't become dramatic or a nuisance. We streamline life. This girl chatting with at the moment is hell bent on making me open up more and come to her when I'm struggling, whether I'm struggling with something in life or struggling with something that she said or done that just made me feel a certain way, and reminding me that I am allowed to feel things. Feelings are valid, and she'd much rather me come to her, talk it through, be vulnerable, and address it than me just pretend it didn't happen and stuff it down. And I think life has taught me just, sit down, shut up, man up, all the rest of it. And it's like, hey, to suddenly have somebody that's willing to create a space where I can go to them and say, hey, this thing really upset me today, or you said something earlier that just didn't land quite well. Can we talk about it? That's a really, really new development in my life and something that I'm very slowly coming to grips with. So yeah, not really a kink thing, but certainly something that's going to be kind of kink adjacent, I guess, when it comes to open communication.
That's an adulting 401 skill, and that's amazing.
I was just gonna say real quick. I'm right there with you, Crinkly. Learning to be more vocal about the things I want in communication. When this was all new to us, I was wondering like why it was only me at first. Like I would get patted by myself, and I went to him and was like, hey. This is something I would really like you to be more a part of. And he's like, oh, well, I thought that was just a you thing. I'm like, no, I want you to start taking more initiative and I want you to help me get into that headspace. And ever since then, it's smooth flowing. And just took that little bit of communication to get it out there. Like I was so anxious I was like, why is this so hard? Like, we've been together for 7 years. Why is this hard for me to say? But it's like, communication is hard no matter how long you've been with somebody.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good for you for trying that, even though it's a scary thing to try.
That transition where something goes from being my thing or your thing to being our thing is just incredible.
Delicious. It's so good. And I will say that communication doesn't always lead to that. I had a moment with Lola, and we're, I think, pretty good communicators the other day where I said, I was sort of propositioning her, and she was like, oh, I just don't want to right now. And I was like, cool. And then later I was like, oh, I felt kind of hurt about that. And so what I communicated back was, hey, you were exactly right to do what you did. There's nothing in the world wrong with that. And I'm really glad you communicated so well. And I can tell I'm feeling a thing. So just let me feel it. And I will. And then it'll be over. And she was like, great. Like, sometimes you communicate and you get what you want. And sometimes you have to wait or you don't. But having the open discussion about what you want and need and what you want to try, and being open to the other partner's actual real human response and continuing to communicate, that's the 501 skill. Maybe it's 401B. I don't know.
Learning how to do that. You hear so often people say, oh, you just need to allow yourself to feel it, or you just need to allow it to pass through you. You just need to sit with this feeling for a while. I mean, I understand all of those words in those orders, but I never knew how to do it. And that's, a personal self-development thing at the moment, which is, Teddy alluded to it again earlier, the therapy side of things and learning how to be more emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature, but actually knowing that you can just go, that bothered me. It created a response, and I don't need you to fix it, but I just wanted you to know, and I'm going to learn how to process it better going forward, is a hugely powerful thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Completely agree. I think communication here is a really common thread that it's hard to summarize this whole episode. We've talked about a lot of things here, trying to, talk about expanding your horizons, how maybe rock bottom is a good place to be, maybe not some place you want to be, but a good opportunity. Again, this didn't happen to me, it happened for me, but also just having an open mindset in general, just trying to go out and explore new things, putting yourself in new positions, breaking out of routines, and then also having strong communication with the people around you, whether that be your partner who you're, trying to do kinky scenes with, or even just your friends, the people that you surround yourself with, if they're also open-minded and supportive of things that you want to try in your life. If you tell them that you want to go try wax play and they're like, that sounds awesome, tell me more about it when you figure it out, that's probably going to be a helpful place, it's for you to be. If your community around you is the opposite, if they're, not going to support that or judge it, then maybe you're going to have a harder time. So those are kind of my takeaways from this conversation. And I mean, I would love to keep going here, but I think we're already over an hour, and, Love and Brief isn't so brief anymore, but even this is pushing it for us. So yeah, but,
no, I love that summation. I love it.
Okay, good. I did it justice.
I think so. I think that was masterful.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you so much to our guests, Baby Pants and Crinkly, for coming on. Really enjoyed the conversations here. If folks wanted to reach out to you, and you're okay with that, wanted to ask you both, what would be the best way to do that? So, Baby Pants, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, so for me, it's going to be through Instagram, Mrs.babypants. I was already excited for the marriage.
Getting ahead of it. I love it.
Yes, I also just want to say pretty much this entire podcast, I've been giving snaps. Like, it's been beautiful, y'all.
Oh, glad to hear it.
I'll take those snaps and I'll give them right back to you right here.
Snap.
I should ask, is Mrs. MRS? Is it MISSUS? How do you spell it on Instagram?
Yes, MRS.
MRS
Baby Pants.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So,
Gotcha.
so is it a dot or an underscore? It's a dot. Mrs.babypants.
Baby Pants.
Perfect.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Perfect. And thank you so much for responding to my ask. I actually put an ask out for guests for this episode because I needed a second voice. And Baby Pants responded with her lovely story. And I was just like, yes, let's get you on. So thank you for being open-minded and expanding your horizons and joining a podcast episode.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And Crinkly, so we alluded to it earlier, but you are the voice of a podcast. So we'd love to hear a little bit about that if you want to plug it, and also the best place to reach you.
I'd love to plug it. So yeah, it's called The Crinkle Club. It's me and a co-host called Miss Mummy. And we do come from things from a very different perspective, which I think adds complexity and layers to it, which is good. We're not an advice podcast like you guys. We just tend to discuss a different topic each week, and people seem to enjoy it. It's a fantastic medium, and it's been way more successful than we thought. So if you haven't listened already, please do. And if you'd like to drop me a line on anything, again, I'm always happy to receive messages from people. So I'm also on Instagram, as long as my account is up, because Insta seems to hate us at the moment, but I'm comfortably crinkly on Instagram and Tumblr, comfy crinkly on FetLife and X, and also on Instagram as the Crinkle Club and Crinkly Creations, which was the business from a little while ago. So yeah, reach out on any of those and I'll be happy to reply.
Perfect. Teddy, how do people get a hold of you?
I am Teddy Bear with me on FetLife, no underscore dashes, and then on Instagram, Teddy Bear underscore with me. And yeah, hopefully Instagram stays around for a while. That would be great. Not loving what's happening lately, and we'll probably do an episode on that sometime this year about just the state of ABDL social media, because it's rough out there, y'all.
Yeah, it's rough seas. I am Resonant Yes on just about everything, so come find me there. But even better, sign up for the Love and Brief FetLife group. That is a great way we kind of continue the conversation on there. I always publish episodes there first, and they have been sort of a rock for us. In fact, that's one of the ways that Teddy and Lola and I ended up hanging out was in that FetLife group. Yep. And we also have the Love and Brief Instagram account. So Resonant Yes all over the place, or Love and Brief on FetLife and Instagram. I'm also on Reddit a lot more now and throwing questions out on Reddit.
So I love that. Kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you told me to do that like 4 years ago, but here I'm finally getting around to it, and it's been a really good experience. And I will say, friends, Teddy produced this one, and one of the things that makes this show so wonderful to get to do is that I get to meet brand new people I never would have met, and Miss Baby Pants is one of those people, because Miss Baby Pants actually reached out and said, hey, I know you're looking for this topic, or I know you've been thinking about this thing. I have a story. Here's my story. That is such a cool thing to do. And it really helps us not only come up with what is our next topic, but if you want to be on the podcast as well, or you've heard us talk about something and you want to be a guest, just shoot us a note. We keep a whole sort of library of people who have had given experiences. And even if it's not going to happen that week or that month, we come back to it and we say, now's the time. So shoot us a note at any of those places, FetLife or Tumblr or Instagram or Reddit, and get a hold of us and let us know, because we would love to do what we just got to do with Miss Baby Pants and make a new friend. All right, Teddy, I think that about wraps it up. Before I close, friends, anything else you guys want to talk about that we did not get to?
I think I'm all Gucci over on this side.
Yeah, and just as the number one fanboy of the Love and Brief podcast, I just want to say thanks for having me, and I've absolutely loved making this episode with you guys.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah. And I think I just want to...
such a pleasure to have both of you.
I just want to remind everybody of RY's beautiful ask earlier, think about what your next thing is, whether it's kink, whether it's something else. Who are you right now? What's that lingering thought in the back of your mind of like, ooh, that sounds kind of fun. And how can you make that happen? I love that ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So long as it's not pineapple on a pizza.
Well,
so long as it's not pineapple and olives on a pizza.
I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but just don't do that.
Except for that one. Well, guys, I'm going to go get my pram from my lorry and take it up the lift to my flat so that I can play football. This has been another episode of Love in Brief.